Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
That's right. We're all so excited to hear from Naomi Klein, and thank you so much to the Institute for Humanities for opening the doors for great lectures like this, Naomi Klein and others throughout the semester. Really excited to be here. If you had told me as an undergraduate that I would be up here introducing Naomi Klein in 2003, I would not have believed it. I was reading No Logo and staying up late sewing in my living room, worried about maquiladoras, and went to maquiladoras and saw the horrifying truth of what that meant, and it totally transformed my life. So thank you for the opportunity today to do this. It's an honor and a privilege. I want to take the opportunity today to talk to the young people in the room. I feel like it's an important opportunity as somebody thinking back to 2003 when I was on campus and think about our role as a generation, because we've known no other reality than the Reagan-era austerity. We've known no other reality than this climate regime, and we've known no other reality than globalization. And as a generation, as Naomi highlights in her book, we have a sense of solastalgia, homesickness when you are at home. So whether you believe this to be true today, I think it's only faith that's going to save us. And as Erykah Badu, hip-hop poet, has stated, most intellects do not believe in God, but the fear is just the same. So where can we draw certainty and hope from an era of uncertain truth, instability, and crisis? I'd like to present an idea for our generation that has to do with its linguistic roots in Latin. And as someone who learned Spanish later in life, I found a fascinating difference between two words, hogar and lugar. I find the difference is foundational in the way that we can manifest movement spaces to put an end to hegemonic climate regimes like the one that we have today. Much like space and place, lugar and hogar refer to a kind of physical space and a metaphysical space. They overlap. Both words, lugar and hogar, they come from Latin, and the base word both come from the word foco, the root word of focus, the center, the light, the family, the home. When they separate, lugar literally means place. What is your place? The word itself is bounded in geography. You can pull out your iPhone and type in an address and it'll pull up on Google Earth. So it's literal. It will decay in the elements. It's geometric and linear, but these lugares, they're disappearing because they're rooted in consumption. They can be commodified and privatized, bound by the limits in law, and as such can be embedded in the type of hetero-patriarchal societies created by the legacies of colonialism and capitalism. Hogar, on the other hand, this is a place that brings energy to life. Where is your spot? Where is your space? What makes you live? What fuels your hearth? Where do you keep it? Whose bowl does your hearth feed? I ask you, how do you tend to your hogar? And why do you hide it? This hogar is infinite. It cannot be co-opted and it cannot be corrupted. It cannot be tracked, and it's not on Google Earth. This hogar is an inspiration to get out of bed every day and stand to say, this is enough. Your hogar is this place unseen, but felt. Climate change is here, and we will lose land. We'll watch it burn as we do in Indonesia. We'll see entire communities flooded and flee from famine. There will be fewer lugares for us to lay our heads, but even more hogares for us to continue to grow our movements. So this is a call to grow your hogar, to find a space in the society in which status quo cannot exist. Like the Black Lives Matters movements, and like I Don't Know More, we need more movements to stand up and say no. In Detroit, we have folks like Detroiters Resisting Emergency Managers standing up for democracy. That's right, I see a wave in the air. Hell yeah! That's right. The People's Water Board Coalition saying, water is a human right and people deserve to have it in their homes. Detroit Eviction Defense Coalition saying, this is someone's land, this is someone's house, this is where we grew our children, and we deserve to be here, not to let banks profit from our misery. So this is the call to demand the dignity of human rights in this hogar. And Naomi Klein, the woman for whom we're here today, her hogar has burned so bright, it's inspired millions and millions of people all over the globe. Her words and ideas are an inspiration to stop allowing business as usual, to operate in an economic system that's destroying life on Earth today. Her books have been read in 30 different languages all over the world. She's an award-winning journalist, a syndicated columnist, and authors of bestsellers like This Changes Everything. I want to raise up this book because this changes everything. This changes everything. Give her a round of applause as she's coming in as a fellow directors, global grassroots movements, She's an award winner of the Hillary Western Writers Trust Prize, and now her movie coming out this fall. We're going to get to see a clip right now and hear from Naomi Klein.
Global warming as a serious threat. Celebrate! Climate legislation is dead.
We, in the global north, with less than 20% of the population, are responsible for over 70% of global emissions.
We are growing all over the place.
On the other side of the world, those people who are the most affected by climate change, most affected by environmental injustice, have the least responsibility for creating this crisis in the first place.
The amount of fossil fuel that we're combusting year on year is growing. We're going in completely the wrong direction.
I spent 6 years wandering through the wreckage caused by the carbon in the air and the economic system that put it there.
That old paradigm will be forced into change, either by the environment around us or by us.
You see communities who are thrown into the front line. You see the incredible transformation. They become stronger, they stand up.
So here's the big question. What if global warming isn't only a crisis? What if it's the best chance we're ever going to get to build a better world? Change or be changed?
There are limits. Let's celebrate the limits because we could reinvent a different future.
everybody. I'm so glad to be here. I want to thank the Institute of Humanities and Sedona Smith for hosting me here. Michelle Martinez, that was just about the most beautiful, poetic, and wise introduction I think I've ever heard. Thank you so much. Thank you for that, and thank you for everything you are doing to defend your home place and our collective home in the process. So I'm told that one of the themes of this series is conversion. Conversion of the climate, conversion of the economy. And that is really at the heart of the work that I've been doing on climate change. This question of whether or not we collectively are capable of change. And the reason why I called the book This Changes Everything is not because the book changes everything. I'm not so arrogant as to claim that. It's because climate change changes everything. And I wanted to find a title for the book that would begin the discussion about climate change, where I think this discussion has to begin when we talk about this now. 2.5 decades since scientists told us that they now were sure, as James Hansen did in 1988 in front of Congress, that he now had a high degree of certainty that human activity was causing climate change and that we needed to act. And it was that year that the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change was formed. Since our government started meeting to talk about lowering emissions, global emissions have gone up by more than 60%. So when we talk about climate change now, we face what the climate scientist Michael Mann calls the procrastination penalty. So the procrastination penalty means essentially that there are now no non-radical options left on the table. If we stay on the road we're on, if we basically do nothing, that road leads us to 4 to 6 degrees Celsius of warming. Those numbers don't come from 350.org, they don't come from Greenpeace, they come from the World Bank, and they come from PricewaterhouseCoopers. That's who says we're headed towards 4 to 6 degrees warming, if we continue with what they call business as usual. So in order to get to that very radical place, this place where entire countries disappear, coastal cities disappear, mass agricultural failure, all we have to do is nothing. Just keep doing what we're doing now. So it doesn't feel very radical. It doesn't feel radical, but the result is radical. Now, it is not too late to prevent that radical future, but because we have waited so long, we now need to do so much to lower emissions very, very quickly that it requires changing pretty much everything about our political and economic system, because our political and economic system is not built to allow us to cut emissions as deeply as we need to cut them. In the book, I rely on figures from the Tyndall Center on Climate Change Research, which is one of the leading climate research institutions in the world in Manchester, England. And what they say is that in countries like the United States and Canada, where I live, we need to be cutting our emissions by 8 to 10% a year. Now, all kinds of measures have been announced. We know that Obama has introduced some pretty aggressive measures on coal burning, and it's better than what there was before, but it is not in any way leading to the kind of emission reduction that we need to have. But the argument I make in the book is that if we want to understand why we have failed so miserably to meet this challenge, a lot of it has to do with a case of epic bad timing. I mentioned 1988, the year that James Hansen testified before Congress. Now, I don't think there could have been a worse time for human beings to get this news that we have to get ourselves off fossil fuels. And the reason is that 1988 was the high point for this ideological project that in most parts of the world is called neoliberalism. It used to be called the Washington Consensus. Sometimes it's just called globalization. 1988 is the year before the Berlin Wall collapsed. It is the year that Canada and the US signed the first free trade agreement that became the prototype for NAFTA, and then the prototype for all the deals that we're seeing now, like the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And the pillars of this ideological project that led Francis Fukuyama that year to declare history over, that there was just one single economic model. That project, the pillars of that project are privatization, deregulation, cuts to corporate taxes, paid for with cuts to public spending, all locked in under corporate free trade deals. Now, this is just the air we breathe. This is all, as Michelle said, most young people in this audience, or pretty much everybody under 40 in this audience, all we've ever known, right? This is the system that we just call the economy, but it was not always thus. And the problem we have is that these pillars of privatization, deregulation, this aversion to taxing the wealthy and corporations, it has put us on a collision course with climate change, because underpinning